Okay, so good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us for the PA Forum Learning and Development Conference 2021. I am absolutely buzzing to be able to introduce this wonderful woman today who is with us. I was introduced to her by Victoria Ratton, founder of the Executive and Personal Assistants Association. As you can see, she has one of the most colourful and creative backgrounds that I've probably ever seen on Zoom. And so it's amazing to be able to welcome Vanessa Vallely OBE. Welcome. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be with you.
No, it's an absolute pleasure to have this time together. So thank you. Tell us a little bit about your background first, Vanessa, because have you just got into floral arranging? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, I have. It's something I did during lockdown. I used to wake up 5 o'clock in the morning. I think I'm so conditioned of waking up, getting on the train, going to London. So I decided to do like an online floristry course, just like learning online. I've always played around with flowers anyway. And then it turned into a bit of a thing, like before you know it, like everything in the house had an artificial flower on it. So my husband was like, you need to do something with this, like, rather than turning our house into Kew Gardens. So I set up a little flower business, but I only do it locally and I only do it for fun. I'm not a professional just yet, but yeah, no, I absolutely love it. And then when I decorated my she shed, it looks like a 14-year-old's bedroom, but I love it. Really, I'd like to do this in my house, but I'm sure, the incumbents that live there would have a few things to say about it. So when I'm out here, I do what I like.
I absolutely love it, and to be honest, ever since my flatmate moved out, my apartment's kind of lost the female touch, and I'm thinking
I'm gonna have to come give it a makeover.
Yeah,
I'm all over that.
I might need to get you round, lovely, so you can sprinkle some magic dust all over that, please. No,
regret it.
Absolutely. Now, I mean, how you find the time to do that, Vanessa, with everything that you do and everything that you've done? I really wanted to get you on today because I'm sure lots of people have seen all the fantastic work that you're doing, but to really understand the woman behind all of that, I think is really important. Yeah. So I wondered, could you just take us back and give us like a little bit of an insight into your career journey and how you kind of got to where you are today with WeAreTheCity.com and how all of the things that have followed from that and all the exciting opportunities that you have and have worked on. How did that all start?
Where did it all begin? It all began back in Hackney in East London. Grew up, just me and my mum in the East End. No sob story. I'm so proud of my roots and I wouldn't go back and scrub any aspect of my upbringing. But, things weren't particularly great from an economic kind of standpoint. So I didn't really do very well in school. At 14, there were other things going on in my world that were more important. And I kind of checked out a little bit. So I managed to scrape through with a few GCSEs. I got a C in dance, right? So suited me really well in the clubs in the early days. But anyway, I had big dreams and big ambitions. I wanted to go and work in the city. I knew that's where they made money. The careers teacher told me that wasn't an option because girls don't work in banks. That was the first thing. And also, she kind of reminded me of my lack of academic education and my unpolished behaviour. Let's put it that way. So, but what did I have to lose? I often tell the story. I could see into the city from me and my mum's flat in Hoxton. We lived on the 18th floor and we could see one building that used to stand there, which was NatWest Tower. Wow. So I could see that money was in my reach if someone would just give me an opportunity. So at 16, I got on the bus, went up, applied for every single job. It was always a no. There was a number, even if I got through to interview, there was this big Cockney accent, perhaps maybe I was a little bit overconfident because I so wanted it. But they always said no. And then eventually one bank that were taking in like 3 of the trouble kids alongside the more kind of polished kids, and they was going to give us a chance, and that one of them was me. So I got to work in the very building I could see from my bedroom window. I went to work for NatWest Tower.
Wow.
And then they sacked me 6 months later. And I thought my life was over. And they sacked me. They didn't so much sack me. They wanted to relocate me 200 miles. I think it's called constructive dismissal these days. But back then, but basically I hit a situation and I was only a youngster. I didn't know how to deal with it. Didn't think to go and talk to someone who's more superior. And I just dealt with it how I would deal with things in Hackney, which if someone demonstrates bad behaviour, you call it out. But when they're perhaps 4 rungs above you, there's probably a more diplomatic way than kind of how I did that. So I just knew that my career was never going to flourish there. But I was a bit disappointed because I was the first one in my family to go and work in a bank. And I had to go back and kind of tell my dad that, you know, that I'd messed up the job. I'd played up to the stereotype that they expected of me. So you learn a valuable lesson. And even then, I learned a lesson about not fighting people's battles as well, you know, and because when I went into bat for a particular individual, there was no one behind me. So not bad lessons to learn at a young age. And also one of resilience, that things, you will make mistakes along the way, and that sometimes you have to, it's, you know, it's the power to get back up and just be a little bit self-aware and say, okay, maybe I was a little bit at fault there and maybe I can, you know, do a little bit better next time. So I'm probably more like the 16-year-old girl now with the way I call things out. I think that comes with age than I was from my many years in corporate. So to cut a very long story short, I went off and got a job in an IT company. There was no computers in the city. I mean, these were back, some of you may remember it, back in the DOS-based days, like WordPerfect 5.1, Lotus 123, Amy Pro, you know, they'd never had a clue. They were still on pen and paper. But wow. I started off as a receptionist at that tech company. And behind me was the training manager who was trying to keep up with the demand of all these PCs flying out the building, you know, from the actual company. But then people needed to know how to use them. So she was booking training for like all of these DOS-based products. And we just started to see a little bit of Windows 3.1, and we introduced people to the mouse. But I used to help her out. I've always kind of been of this opinion, even when I become more senior in my roles, if you roll up your sleeves, we both get the job done and we get out the door quicker. So I always used to kind of, she was binding training manuals. Remember those horrible things with the teeth that used to like, and you have to unpick them and then almost take your finger off. And I used to go and do her binding for her. But when she got a job for an opportunity for a head count, because she was clearly drowning, she took me into her team. So I moved off of reception into being a training administrator. And then the next couple of years, I watched how she'd done her job, and I felt confident enough after 2 years that actually I think I could do her job as a training manager. So I moved on to Reader's Digest. And again, it's a long old story in my career, so I'm not going to bore you all with it because I know we've got a minimal time. But when I joined Reader's Digest, my job was to organise training for everyone. And one day, one of the trainers went sick. And I said to my boss, I can teach that Windows 3.1 intro. It's close a window, open a window. It's not rocket science. And one of the things that I had actually learned my last year at school was how to turn a computer on, which was more than some of the people that I was dealing with. So, and I ended up training it. And then I ended up training Word and Excel. And before you know it, I trained the whole company, what was left of the program. And there was nothing for me to manage. So again, another valuable lesson that sometimes you do a job and your job isn't necessarily there at the end of it. So I took voluntary redundancy, you know, it's £5,000. It's a lot of money, it's still a lot of money now. But back then, I think they were really over generous. Maybe they just wanted to get rid of me, I'm not sure. But I took that, I set up my own company. So I set up a business at 21, no business acumen whatsoever. Training company running up and down the country, training, I think at one point about 22 different applications I'd got to. And then realised I wasn't grown up enough to run a business because I didn't understand what the VAT man was or the tax man. So I ran back to corporate, was doing a bit of desktop support, and there followed a series of hops. I think always punching above my weight, always using my organisational skills. And even when I looked to my most senior position, so I worked for 9 different banks and investment managers, everything that I did in every single job, regardless of how senior I was, boiled back to that ability to organise things and people and build relationships. So the jobs that I had in project management, in program management, kind of chief of staff roles, business management, it's basically a lot of what you guys do. So I think those skills really, really served me well. And I think another thing, kind of going through every job, I'd always put my hand up for the job that no one else wanted. You know, there were certain people that used to sit next to me and go, well, that's not my job. And I'd be like, we just need to act as a bit of a team here. And it doesn't matter if it's not my job, I'm just going to muck in and we're just going to get it done. So I think that attitude of always wanting to learn, always putting your hand up for what I call the stinky work that no one wants to do, building good relationships with people, you know, and not kind of doing the whole, this isn't my job, getting involved with office gossip stuff. You know, I just had one clear trajectory that whatever I did, I wanted to do it and be the best at it that I could possibly be. So 13 years ago, once I got to that kind of senior position, I just was getting frustrated at the lack of women that were around my leadership table. By then I was in with all the boys. But my challenges were different. I had 2 kids under 5. You know, part of my job involved me traveling quite a lot, which I couldn't do without my assistant, by the way. You know, they are the underpin my world even today. But it was tough. It was a tough gig with having kids so young, but I just wanted to pave the way for other women that could kind of come in and follow in my footsteps and let me help them to whatever it is their aspirations were. And I just was Googling about, and there was just nothing out there in terms of where were the women's networks, where were the stories of women that have been there and seen it and done it, but also who fell on their knees and got up and dusted themselves back off, because it's not always about the rosy story. So I wanted to kind of find out that, and there was nothing. And I went to a few women's networks, but everyone looked the same there. You know, they're all from the same backgrounds. Even I felt a little bit out of place from my own kind of social background. You know, they probably knew what knives and forks to use, whereas I was still learning. But I just didn't feel that I fitted in. So I had this kind of mad idea. Me and my husband went away for a weekend, and I was like, you know, where's my website, basically? And one doesn't exist. I know, we'll build one. So we had this mad kind of, over a bottle of wine, let's write a plan. I rang all my mates from Spain, most expensive phone bill I've ever had. I've got this idea, you know, that I'm going to build a website for women to access resources to drive their careers forward. And one of my best friends, who's still my best friend today, I remember her saying to me on the phone, I don't get it. And I'm like, but you're my best friend. You're supposed to get everything, even if it's a bonkers idea. She gets it now, you know, 13 years later. But so we built the website. And again, it was not for profit. I didn't want to charge anyone anything, because I know that people don't always have the money to do this kind of stuff. So, and I ran that off the side of my desk for 7 years. And then it got to a point where, if I'm completely honest, my love of banking was getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and my tolerance of being in those rooms alone, that I decided to dip out, which was a huge compromise. I remember sitting in my conservatory. I had WeAreTheCity. I think we had about 40,000 members. We had no sponsorship. Nobody kind of give us any money. If I wanted to do something previously, I'd pay for it out my own money because I wanted to do it. Didn't understand the sponsorship model. And I thought, what on earth have I done? You know, like, I'd left a well-paid job with a fancy job title and all the trimmings that went through it to pursue this kind of whimsical dream I've got of helping women. Now, I was quite lucky. You know, my kids never went to private school, so there was no compromise on them, but there were things as a family we just couldn't do anymore. Which would kind of eat their way back, but it will never be the same as, like, you know, the career I could have had. But I sleep well at night and I love what I do. So today we are the city, 140,000 women, free webinars on that website, a network directory, awards, conferences. I wrote a book in between that time called Hills of Steel, which tells you a bit of that young girl story and 13 chapter tips. We've now got We Are Tech Women, which kind of does stuff on the tech side. So yeah, so that's what I spend my life doing, and it fulfills me, and I love it. I love seeing women get ahead, and I'm just intent in playing part in a very large story that means that we won't have to fight for the things that we have to currently fight for, be it equal pay, pension rights, or whatever. But yes, so that's me. That's a long answer.
I love it. No, I love it. It's like if you can can your history into that length of time and make so much impact along the way. I mean, that's awesome. You've got some great lessons there, Vanessa. And I think I can relate to you in the fact that I am always, I do like to challenge the status quo, and it doesn't normally go down well sometimes. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. And if you don't have those people out there that challenge the status quo, we'll all live in a world that I see as a sea of grey. And that's not what we want. We want floral behind you. We want to see that.
I mean, don't get me wrong on that note, then, you know, you have to pick your battles.
Exactly.
And I think as I got more senior, I realised that sometimes there was a bit of politics at play and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, I'll save you for later. You know, when you've really upset me, and then you're king, you know. But I think I do think that's really important, that whatever happens, you can look back and reflect, and that you've got that self-awareness to know that, you know, we're continuous work in progress as people. No one's kind of got it right, you know. So you take the good bits and you take the bad bits and you try and improve on them.
Yeah, 100%. And just how did you feel when you were sat around you know, when you're at that board table and you're very much part of the, you know, the board level with all those men, did you feel that your voice was heard, and did they very much respect what you were saying? And
I think you can either walk in a room and think, I'm a woman, I'm not going to have my voice heard, or you can walk in a room and say, I'm different.
yeah.
You know, and I think that was my thing, and I think the longer I spent in that room, the more vocal I become. I remember joining one board where kind of sat there the first meeting, all like meek and mild. It didn't take them long to get to know me by the second meeting. But again, I've always been an observer of people. Like, I like to watch and suss people out. And I think it's really important, even when you start a new job or anything like that, that you work out who your allies are and who are the people that are going to maybe give you a few problems for whatever reason. You know, their ideas have got passed over in the past or stuff like that. So I was always more of a kind of people watcher. But, you know, there were times when I walked into rooms and I felt a bit of an imposter. I still do. You know, I remember being asked to go and sit on a panel, and everyone on the panel had a degree and PhDs, and I didn't have anything like that. I mean, the OBE is a recent thing in 2017, which is fabulous to take my mum and dad back to Buckingham Palace. But I always used to think, oh, do I deserve to be here? And again, when I've done a lot of work with EAs and PAs, you know, the term that I hear that most frustrates me is I am just. And no one is just anything. It's not just an EA, PA. It's not just a, you know, a consultant. It's never just nothing, regardless of whatever you do, because you all bring so much to the table. And, you know, I've always been of the opinion, I'm not just saying it because you're listening to me, but you can go back. I've written this in articles years ago. You not actually run the companies. It ain't the big people that are running the company at all. You know, I know that because, and that's why I think it's so important that whatever it is that you, skills that you bring and how you show up every single day, that you own that and you pull your shoulders back and proud of who you are, proud of what you give, and proud of your profession. You know, I certainly am. And I know we're going to talk about the awards a bit later on, but, you know, that it's not even boldness, it's just owning your achievements. And sometimes I think it's really easy, be it imposter syndrome or whatever, to think that we just bring this to the table, and in fact we don't.
Yeah, we're so quite, you know, worried about, I think we're always so worried about what other people think, aren't we? All the
It's
time.
what other people think, and I think it's this you know, we put ourselves on such a pedestal that we're in every single room and we should absolutely know everything in that room. That's not the way it works. Everyone brings something different, and that difference of perspectives is what's important. Just a quick story on that. Like, growing up where I grew up, we had to solve problems with no money, right? We didn't have money as a resource. And when the financial crisis happened, and I was in one of my leadership team rooms, whereby if I'd have had a bit of a wacky idea on how to motivate staff and stuff, no one would have listened, because the people that had studied together and that come up with the same ideas would have kind of had a voice in that room. But they were actually looking to me saying, how do we motivate all these staff when people are getting made redundant, there's no bonuses, you know, if anything, everyone's doing 2 or 3 jobs. And all of a sudden, that background of mine that I hid and that I was a little bit ashamed of was in that room, adding value, coming into its own. So, as I say, sometimes you have to kind of look back and go, whatever I've been through, or the lessons we've learned, or whether or not you went to university, or whether you went to the hard school knock of life, or what's it called, the school of hard knocks, that's it, I'll get my words out properly, whether or not you went there, you know, there's great value in what we've learned in our life experiences and the ideas that we bring to the table. But no one will know about those ideas unless you speak up and not be frightened to put them forward. 100%. And I think all of you have a voice there.
100%. I think, you know, you really truly demonstrate the power of a really strong network of people around you, and how, you know, supportive that network can be. I mean, 140,000 members is just crazy. I mean, that's brilliant.
Couldn't get them all in a room.
No, yeah. I was going to say we'll have to hire an island, wouldn't we? We'd be like, come on, let's go. But, you know, how would you say your network has evolved over years? You know, do you find collaboration is massive? You know, it's key.
100%. Do you know what? I've always said that. Years and years ago, when I first started, I invited a load of the women's network leaders for dinner. And even the invite was like, oh, sit around a table together? How very dare you, you know? And I remember a few of them sitting there, and it was like this. And that was mad, because I've always been a believer that collaboration is key to whatever you do. We're all trying to achieve the same thing, be it gender parity, be it equality for someone else, or be it, you know, to progress other people. So getting together is a natural thing. But again, to do anything in life, we need people, whether it's help outside of life, whether it, you know, wherever it is. And unless we kind of put some effort into building relationships, I know not everyone's a fan of the networking word, we don't have those resources, and we won't have that joint collaboration either. So, but my first ever networking thing, I often tell the story, I walked in and I walked straight back out. I was like, I would, you know, I just felt so uncomfortable. What was my story? Would anyone be interested? And then I went again, and some lady came up to me. She went, oh, I'm on my own. Do you mind if I stand with you? And I thought, oh my God, it was that easy. And I realized, actually, I really like learning about people. And I love when something comes up in a conversation where I know I can help them. And I'm like, oh my God, I know someone that might be able to help you with that, or I can connect you with that person. So I become a bit of what I call like a connectpreneur, almost like looking for people that needed, like, you know, to connect with someone or help. And that's where it kind of began. And I think it's at a whole new level now, obviously, with what's gone on in the last couple of years with COVID and stuff. Like my conferences, I've built that network globally sitting on my settee. So it can, I know it can be done. And it's a different way of doing it, reaching out to someone online. Are they going to talk to you? Do you get that rapport when you meet people on Zoom? So, for example, Daniel and I have never properly met yet. He's my bestie, you know. So it's like, but do you know what I mean? Like, you can build that relationship online, and you can continue to build that network. I do think there's an element of give first, receive later. Like, I've never entered a room of people thinking I can sell people to people in this room. I enter a room to build a relationship with them. If they ask me to do something, or I say I'm going to do something, I do it. I build trust. For me, is really, really important in a relationship. And I think that trust kind of reciprocates itself. So my advice on that is, you know, when we are back to normal and we are allowed back in rooms, there are so many things that you can go to. And please do not stick to just things for EAs and PAs. And I'm not detracting from the great organizations, because I've watched them grow over the last 10 years as well. But go and hang out with the entrepreneurs, go and hang out with the women in consultancy, or, you know, they're a lot of fun. You know, we know of over 2,000 women's networks, but go hang out in a different industry, learn something new, you know, spark an idea, you know, obviously stay true to your profession, because I think there's nothing like that circle of trust within your own profession. You know the challenges you face and that safe space, but you can build such a wonderful network. And, you know, I've remember doing a talk for another EA organization, and one of the ladies said, oh, I'd feel uncomfortable there, like would we be welcome at a women in banking event? Well, absolutely you would. You know, so please don't let that be a barrier to say, oh, there has to be a certain place where I would fit. I think that's gone out the window. I think we all fit in different ways, but we have to put the effort in to continue to learn and to build that network as well.
I mean, I just had a meeting with the Law Society yesterday, and they said, you know, can you support us in letting you know that your members are able to come to our events.
I used to do talks for the Law Society. They're fabulous.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not just the partners, it's not just the lawyers. I mean, how amazing can you imagine to walk into that room?
Yeah. And a lot of organizations now, it's not just about women, they want men to attend. You know, I think, you know, obviously the women in name kind of scares men off a little bit. It's like going, oh, come to the old boys club. You know, we'd be like, not quite sure that's for us. But, you know, we need more of a mix of different people from the industry working together. So yeah, absolutely. Grow your networks. Don't be frightened to reach out. You know, what's the worst that can happen? Someone don't reply. You move on and you're someone else.
And you know, I did that. I went to my first ever women's networking lunch. It was a ladies' lunch, and I walked in, the only guy in the room. Absolutely, and it was a fashion. I'll never forget. John Lewis was there doing a fashion show, and it was bras and knickers. It was bras and knickers, and all the ladies looked at me like, God, there's a guy in the room. I'm like, ladies, no, look at me. It's absolutely fine, honestly.
But you know what I mean? But you own it. That's my point. You know, sometimes you will walk in rooms where, for whatever reason, you feel a little bit uncomfortable or stuff. You've got every right to be in that room, same as you did, regardless of the bras and knickers, right?
I don't know. It's hilarious. And then they kind of, you know, you get the old whispers. is he straight? No, love, I'm not. No.
In the wrong room.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, just moving on now to the awards, and, you know, I absolutely love seeing what you do year after year. You've got two big awards, haven't you?
We have, yeah. My rising stars, my babies, I love them all. So Rising Stars was set up because when you looked at the landscape, the awards landscape about 7 years ago, all of the awards were for senior women. You know, there wasn't really even any industry awards at that particular point. It was all about kind of senior women. And I thought, what about the women on their way? What about the women in all the other professions that we don't see recognised? Why couldn't we create a platform that would recognise 100 women from a multitude of different industries? Why couldn't I have a stage where the lawyers stand by the EAs and the PAs, by the women in defence that are out there fighting for our country, stand next to the women in charity, you know, the bankers, the women in oil and gas, you know, why don't we create this? So that's where Rising Stars started. So a multi-sector awards, but not just giving them the awards, but just supporting the ladies in their careers afterwards, you know, by working out partnerships where we could give them educational opportunities, profile opportunities, get them to go and talk in schools. And that's taken time to build, but that's kind of what we've done. So we set a strategic objective of 1,000 women by 2023. We're almost there. That we would kind of shine a spotlight on from all these different agencies, for all these different industries. And when I was putting together the categories, I was like, I've absolutely got to have the EAs and PAs there. And I remember it was Victoria said, it's so refreshing that we get to be part of those awards. And I'm like, why wouldn't you be? You know, so that's been wonderful, watching all the EAs and PAs come through those awards, again, getting to know all the lawyers and the bankers and, you know, all the different categories that we have, and being seen as one big collective family. We all bring value in some way. So yeah, and then we started Tech Women 100, which is the same thing. You know, and all of our winners are below director level. Our youngest winner was 30 and our oldest winner was 70. So no age limits. You know, I'm not a fan of you can only be a rising star up until you're 30. I remember Financial News, I was a top woman under 40, and that was fabulous. And then I got to 41 and they kicked me off. I was like, how rude.
We've got the future faces with the chambers, and I was devastated. I was like, we've got to be what? Under how old?
Exactly. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I know why they say it when they kind of categorize things, stuff like we just never wanted to be like that. So, and the Rising Stars, you know, like your own awards, right? We've watched them, because what happens is they win our one and then they go on and they apply to others. It becomes like a first. You know, how many awards can I get? And why not? You know, because if you don't blow your own trumpet, who will? Yeah. And more often than not, I come across incredible people with incredible stories that have done amazing things, overcome adversities, and their story is their own. And I want to hear it. So in whatever way, whether it's your organisation, mine, the many others that exist out there, sometimes we just got to get out of our own way and go and tell that story, enter that award. We might just win it, you know, but also, you know, I think it's, and sometimes it's quite hard when you have to sit there and write about yourself, because you're like, oh, I don't want to put that, or I don't want to put that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I judge awards. I must judge about 10 of different awards every year. And I, you know, when I'm reading these award nominations, I want to hear that story. I want the passion to jump off the page. You know, that's what's going to make me want to go, oh, this person's amazing. I want to hear more. So, you know, I think the value of awards shouldn't be underestimated. And I know some of my ladies, even because we have like one-to-one calls with all the winners afterwards, and they've said, oh, you know, I felt like an imposter and I didn't want to put it out there, and I didn't even tell my boss, you know, and all of this stuff. And I'm like, you have to become comfortable, and it's not bragging and it's not boasting, but if you've worked hard and you've achieved the things you've achieved, that story's too great to keep to yourself. And also you become a role model for other people in the industry. Like, so for example, in our EA and PA category this year, there was a young girl, I think she must only be about 18, 19, and she started as a school apprentice. In her category are all much more mature PAs that have been in the industry 5, 10, 15 years. And she's like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm in the room. So there she is feeling her own little imposter syndrome. But now all of those women are taking her under her wing. And she's now going back into schools and talking about that industry, you know, in and encouraging more youngsters. So do you see what I mean? You become a role model for others. So what's not to love about that?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm intrigued, and obviously, you know, we both we were talking about this before, and I think we were talking about, you know, the power of reward and recognition, not only for yourself but also for the organization. I've had in the past, Vanessa, you know, the organizations are worried they're going to lose their PAs if they win, and I'm like,
oh, I remember there's one company we spoke to, and they're like, we want to interview a load of their women, and they were like, oh, if you put them out there, they get stolen. And I'm like, if you look after them, they'll stay. It's as simple as that. But it is good for the organisation. I mean, I'm very much with our awards around, this is your recognition, you've earned it. The fact that your company gets the recognition is a secondary, but you're still under their wing, right? So I think it's brilliant. I mean, we've watched our sponsors of our awards grow in terms of, they tweet about their winners, they put them on the intranet. You know, one of my ladies told me she walked into the canteen and her face was on all of the mirrors. You know, she said she got almost ducked for cover, like it was on all of the screens in the canteen. So they're getting a lot better, and I think companies shouldn't not value the benefit of putting their individuals forward for awards, supporting them, and let that story continue. I mean, how great is it when I jump on with my award winners and they say, my company was so supportive, you know, they've massively supported me through that. I'm on the internet, they're talking about me, all of a sudden my voice is being heard in that room, they're letting me set up another network for this, and it's just that platform for you to do more and to spring from. So, you know, for the companies watching, 100% get behind these awards, you know, raise the profile of your ladies, and they will continue to chatter about what fabulous the support is. You don't want to be, so for example, one lady that won one of my awards, it was a few years back, and like she was told by a line manager to play it down. Oh, don't, because you'll make the other team members feel uncomfortable. And she got no recognition at all, you know, as well known as our awards are, and she left. And the irony about that is, a year later, the company called me in about sponsorship, and I said, I'm going to tell you a little story, you know, about somebody who's no longer with your organisation. And they were mortified, you know, all right, it's an individual line manager and stuff like that. But I think if we play the story about, yes, this is great recognition for the person, and they will want to do more as a consequence. It's great for the organization because they're investing in their talent, and now they're going to continue to nurture that talent, and other people around them think, well, actually, if she can do it, why can't I do it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, we've seen we're in the final stages of our awards at the moment, before the finals on the 5th of November. And we asked them, as final part of the process, we wanted them to create just a one-pager about what if they were to win, how would they support the profession, what would they like to do? And I'm telling you, Vanessa, the ideas that we have seen and the creativity, and even whether it's a Word document and it's written, or a PowerPoint, or they've gone to town and stuck everything on an A3 board or whatever, it's been truly inspiring. And I think, you know, I had 3 of the ladies come up to me and say, I put it on LinkedIn and I've had like 165 comments, and I didn't even know that I was connected to so-and-so who I worked with 10 years ago, and they're so chuffed for me and really happy. And you just watch their confidence just go up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I live off the back of my phone calls with my winners. It's got to be the highlight of my year when I talk to them and they tell me stories of where they've told parents, where, and say their work people, how people have come out the woodwork that they'd lost years ago, same as you know, when I hear that makes, and I know how hard it is running awards, Daniel, so I'm with you, what people don't see behind the scenes, us scrabbling around for people to support us and all the work that goes into it. Those are the moments that make it worthwhile, when you know that you've given someone a jump step to make an impact and to continue your work through what they're doing. There's no better feeling than that.
And I remember, you know, when I used to be an entertainer, and I remember the first show I ever did. I stood on stage and round of applause and everyone was clapping. My heart was beating out of my mouth. I was like, oh my God. And I just thought to myself, if I could give somebody else or others that feeling that I had years ago, like you said, you sleep at night amazing like a baby, don't you?
Yeah, you love your job. It doesn't feel like work. Now, come on, you can't leave everyone in suspense because you said entertainer. What did you used to do? Sorry, I flipped the interview. I've got to know.
I know I started off as a 9-foot yellow banana called Bella, and I used to do skin work abroad in Turkey. 50-degree heat, Vanessa, in a giant sponge banana. Not good. And then I was Gigi the clown, and then I ended up working in some of our sketch shows. So I'll have to show you the pictures offline, but there's pictures of me and Tina Turner in an all-in-one and all different.
Wearing your banana suit.
No, I managed to look grey from the banana suit and get back into something that allowed a little bit of coolness. And yeah,
and now we've got you in this industry, right? And how grateful we are.
100%. If you want any surprise appearances at the Rising Star, I'll get my Tina Turner outfit back out again. But no, I think the important message here is, and it's actually a message from both of us, because we're so in agreement with each other about, you know, it's really important that we do get the support of, you know, the people around you, that you make those nominations, you recognize those people and really thank them for their incredibly hard work and continued contribution time after time again, and to have the confidence to be able to put those nominations in and to write about yourself, which is it's literally like I can hear
always write in the third person. That's easier. Pretend you're writing about someone else and really make it uncomfortable, braggy, boasty, and then cut it back about 20% and you're probably about right, you know. But don't one thing I would always say when you're doing a nomination and stuff like that is the cause and effect. So I do this, and this is the impact that it had. And the bigger the impact, the more it's going to kind of stand out. So even if some of you are sitting there thinking, I don't think I'm quite ready for awards yet, but I know I want to do something, I want you to think about what you could do and how big of an impact. And sometimes it doesn't have to be a massive impact. It could impact 3 really important people's lives, and that's good enough. But if you keep those stories to yourself and you don't tell them through awards, or perhaps you don't, you know, maybe say you're not quite ready to do that yet, you need to get your ideas out there. You know, don't ever sit there and think my voice shouldn't be heard, or I'm not qualified enough, or whatever it is. You've absolutely add value and you bring stuff to the table. Just find a way of being able to articulate some of the stuff that you want to do. And also sometimes you'll get the answer that no, they don't want to do it. There are many ways to skin a cat. As the saying goes, you know, go and do something externally if you want to, you know, and get your experience that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, when we were talking about this, you know, I know we've covered within the conference today, we're talking about the power of profile, we're talking about mentoring and lots of other different topics. And I loved how you know, talk about the power of profile, Vanessa, and why, you know, that's so important. I mean, can you share with our audience kind of, you know, what nuggets of information? I know we're kind of running out of time and compacting everything all. So I could do like a part 2, part 3, part 4 with you. But
I would leave you with, I mean, my talk around the power of profile, I talk about imposter syndrome, so I've touched on that. No one's imposters. You didn't get there by accident. Pull your shoulders back, be proud. Don't compare yourself to others. You know, comparison is the thief of joy. So, you know, focus on what that you do. The second thing is to ensure that you build that network, you know, to build that network online, offline, however you want to do it, but that you keep those relationships warm. Because if it's a one-time transactional relationship, you won't build the trust and the relationship that you need in order to capitalize on that relationship kind of later on down the line. Online profile, really important. You know, I need to be able to find you. I need to find out what your story is. A lot of people's LinkedIn profiles talk about the company they work for, rather than, you know, their role and what they do. And if you work for someone that flies all around the world, that looks after 500 staff, I know how hard your job is, you know, but you need to tell me a little bit of that story, you know, the multiple things that you're juggling and stuff that goes way beyond diaries and booking rooms, right? So, you know, don't be frightened to kind of put that stuff out there. So let me find somewhere online where I find out about you. Obviously, you've covered today mentors and sponsorships. You've had the wonderful Kerry, you know, so around mentorship, none of us are done. When none of us are perfect, I'm still learning things every single day. I have my mentors, but I also have my mentees, and my mentees, if anything, they give me a different lens, a different perspective on the world. You know, they give to me as much as I probably give to them. So that mentoring, just sitting down once a year going, okay, what are the skills that perhaps I need to hone this year, and who are the people that can help me? So the mentoring piece is really important. And then finally, giving back. You know, I think it's really important that we all give back in some way, and you probably do it through charities and stuff, but going into schools, telling your stories, things in your community, it just adds a different dimension, and it helps you build a different network as well. So there'd be the 5 things that I kind of, you know, pick out. And I'm a big believer that we rise by lifting others. You know, that back to that point earlier on, as Daniel said, around collaboration. There's no you and me, there's just us.
Yeah. Vanessa, I could literally sit here and talk to you all day, all week, all year. It's great. And I cannot wait for that day when we actually get to meet each other.
We all get together. It's going to be such fun.
It will be awesome. But I just wanted to say a massive thank you. I've followed you for such a long time. And again, the power of an introduction, and to be able, you know, and there's a trust behind that. So, you know, Vic was about happy to introduce me to you. I think she knew that we'd hit it off. And so, yeah, it's just great. And I think, you know, there's so much to take away from all the advice that you've given today. And I just want to say a massive thank you to you from us all at PA Forum. So thank you so much.
And thank you, PA Forum, for having me. And I hope you all have an absolutely fabulous day. And do connect with me on LinkedIn. I love to keep in touch with people.
Awesome. I'll pop Vanessa's details in the chat box. So thank you so much, Vanessa. Take care.